and welcome to a new episode and a new season of Hidden Treasures with John Palmer, the president of the Hopkinton Historical Society, where he brings in treasures from the Historical Society to share with our viewers. Hello, John. Welcome back.
Hi, Jim. I'm glad to be back.
I'm really excited to have you back. We've had a couple of fun episodes with some guest hosts, but now I'm really interested to see what you brought for us today.
Well, I have a couple of very interesting topics. They're two separate topics. They're not related, other than maybe time period related. But neither one is probably long enough to take up a whole show.
Okay.
But I think together they'll work perfectly.
Excellent.
The first one I want to talk about is the Andrew Fyrberg and Son Manufacturing Company. In 1900.
Okay, I'm going to guess. 1900, manufacturing, I'm going to guess shoes.
My comment on that is it would be a good guess. And they actually started working in an empty shoe factory, but they didn't make shoes.
All right, you take it away.
They were manufacturing guns.
Wow.
Shotguns and pistols. So in downtown Hopkinton, around the year 1900, we had a gun manufacturer named Andrew Fyrberg.
Okay.
And this is the story of Andrew Fyrberg. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Andrew was from an immigrant from Sweden. He came in 1877. He and his wife settled in Worcester. And he worked he was a gun manufacturer before he came to the U.S., but he worked for the Ivor Johnson Gun Manufacturing Company in Worcester. Ivor Johnson's a big name in gun manufacturing.
Okay.
Ivor Johnson had a contract to manufacture guns for Sears Roebuck. And they were made in Worcester. Mm-hmm. And we're getting to a pretty busy period in Sears's catalog business. And the way Sears operated, they didn't like to use the name of the manufacturer. They used their own name. In this case, they called it the Chicago Arms Company. Sears is a Chicago-based company.
Okay.
So they called this made by the Chicago Arms Company. Ivor Johnson didn't like that. He wanted his name as on the guns. Mm-hmm. And so they had a dispute over that. And the arrangement they had fell apart.
Oh.
So Mr. Fyrberg picked up on this, and he formed his own company, legally incorporated with two of his sons. He had two boys and two girls. It was named Andrew Fyrberg and Sons Company. Mm-hmm. And they were in Worcester, and they started working. They took over the Sears contract, and they started working, but they found out this business started to really boom, and they needed more space. The factory in Worcester wasn't big enough. So they were looking around, and they found this abandoned shoe factory in downtown Hopkinton. It was on Wood Street at Main.
Okay.
It's not around anymore. There's nothing around anymore, but it's not around. But they settled there, Wood Street and Main, and they operated operated the manufacturing company. A couple of years later, the business was really booming, and it was exclusively for Sears. So they relocated to another abandoned or empty factory in Hopkinton. It was the Hermina Silk Company.
Okay.
It was on Hayden Row. The building is still there. Here's a picture of the Hermina Silk Factory.
Okay.
That building is still there. It doesn't quite look the same, but it's the location of a daycare center on Hayden Row, big brick building, daycare. Yep.
Wow.
A former Andrew Fyrberg and Company operation, made guns.
Wow.
Couple of years later, Sears wasn't getting all the guns they needed. So Richard Sears, one of the owners, came to Hopkinton, went to visit Andrew Fyrberg and said, I'm going to move this, I'm going to buy your operation and move it to Meriden, Connecticut. I have a big factory there. Fyrberg had nothing to say. He was probably well paid for this.
Yep.
He didn't go with the move. Anyways, he stayed in Hopkinton. I don't know, altogether, they were probably here 10 years, maybe.
Wow.
I found from a Hopkinton Street Directory in 1907 that they lived at 58 Hayden Rose Street.
Okay.
That I also found out that his daughters were, they were members of the Congregational Church of Hopkinton. The daughters performed in the church's Christmas pageant.
Mm-hmm.
They were a good part of the community.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, they moved back to Worcester, and I don't have any more information on this, but
So that's the end of the gun making
that's
history.
the end of the story. But you know, I think maybe you might not believe this is true. So what I have to prove what I'm talking about is this is a Fyrberg shotgun made in Hopkinton. Right on the breech lock, it says Andrew Fyrberg and Company, Hopkinton, Massachusetts.
Wow.
Hopkinton, Mass. So it was made here. It's a shotgun. This is how you operate it. You put your shot in there, do that, pull the trigger, and get your catch, whatever it might be.
Wow. Hopkinton, Mass, right on that gun.
Hopkinton, Mass. Made guns in Hopkinton, Mass. We also have this pistol.
Mm-hmm.
It says right here on the barrel, patent date 1903, Andrew Fyrberg, Hopkinton, Mass.
So patented right from Hopkinton.
Patented it from Hopkinton.
Wow.
So this was a Fyrberg pistol, pocket pistol.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So, and that was made here too. Now, on the shotgun, I've read that they produced about 2,000 shotguns. It was a big business.
Mm-hmm.
So I found it interesting anyway.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
If you had asked me, I would have never thought that there was a gun manufacturer in town.
Yeah. So that takes care of Andrew Fyrberg.
That's a cool story.
So the second episode that I want to talk about, and I'm not going to make you wait till the end to see the object in our history.
Okay.
From our history, we have. Oh, by the way, on the shotgun and the pistol, they're at the Historical Society. They can be handled, looked at closely, whatever you do on any Monday afternoon when we're open.
Okay.
So they're free to look at. And we've had some people that get a big kick out of the gun. This one is also at the Historical Society. It's a gavel.
Yeah, okay.
But it's not just a gavel. It's a very special gavel. And to me, it's emotional. Mm-hmm. But this gavel is probably the rarest treasure that we have at the Historical Society. I call it sacred.
Okay.
And the reason is it came from the wood of the Andersonville prison near Atlanta, Georgia. Mm-hmm. Andersonville was a Civil War prison run by the Confederate Army. It was the Confederate prison, so they housed the Union
soldiers,
POW, prisoners of war there.
Okay.
And it was opened in April 1864. It only was in operation for 14 months. It was closed in in June of 1865, the Union forces took over that area and shut down the prison. But this prison, have you ever heard of the Andersonville prison?
Honestly, I haven't.
Well, I hadn't either, and I'd like to know a little about the Civil War, where some of the battles were fought. But I never heard of Andersonville. But anybody that probably is a vet knows about it. It was the absolute worst prison in the world. It was horrible. It was designed for 11,000 men to live in barracks, but it wasn't. It turned out to be 45,000 men, and they lived in open tents. No wooden barracks, no barracks at all. It's a rectangular field.
Yeah.
It's a large rectangular field. It's got fencing all around it, and it's got a waterway, a river or a stream that runs from side to side through it.
Okay, yeah.
And the purpose of that stream was to provide fresh water.
Sanitation?
Well, fresh water. But it turned out to be a latrine. And there was never a time that there wasn't fecal matter in there.
Yeah.
And the prison was so bad that you couldn't get any food, but what you could get is you got disease, dysentery, scurvy, typhoid fever. We had 13,000 prisoners died from disease at Andersonville. 4 of the prisoners came from Hopkinton.
Oh.
That died there. Not everybody died there, I guess. The ones that came later survived and were freed.
Yeah.
But the 4, in alphabetical order, Francis Claflin, he arrived in June 1864. He died of disease 2 months later.
Wow.
His name you probably know is Comey. Manlius Comey. He arrived at Andersonville in June 1864. He got so sick that he was got involved in a prisoner swap, where one prisoner will take your place. And so he got swapped out. On his way home, he died of disease. He never made it back to Hopkinton. He died en route. Henry Hale Gibson, he is a native of Hopkinton. He died of disease in 1864. And the 4th was Charles Riley. He enlisted in 1862. He fought numerous places. He was taken prisoner in June 1864, and he died of disease in Andersonville in October 1864.
Wow.
Anderson was the worst prison there was. It was so bad that the prison commander, his name is Captain Henry Wirtz, he was convicted of crimes against humanity. And his punishment was hanging by the neck until dead. So,
wow.
And he was the only officer in the Civil War that had that punishment. You know? So it was hell on earth.
Yes. Now, how does now connect that to Hopkinton?
No, I want to. So I want to go back to the gavel.
Yes.
Now this is how it gets connected to Hopkinton. 20 years after the prison closed, of the part I need to tell you about is in the Battle of Atlanta, a Hopkinton resident, Henry Weston fought in that battle, and he apparently liked Atlanta. He settled there. After the war was over, he settled in Atlanta. He joined a veterans post, Grand Army of the. After the war was over, the veterans, the Union, the Civil War veterans, named themselves the Grand Army of the Republic,
Oh.
or GAR.
Okay.
And they had different posts, different venues around the country, around the, well, we're just in the east at this point. And Hopkinton had a post, the C.C. Phillips Post 14.
Okay.
C.C. Phillips was, I think it was the first person that died in the war.
Oh.
And he got the building named after him. It was on Church Street.
Okay.
Not there anymore. Nothing. There's no remains at all. But anyways, Henry Weston settled in Atlanta. He joined the Mitchell Post of the Grand Army of the Republic in Atlanta. And 20 years after the war ended, this was in 1906, Mr. Weston and 3 of his comrades from the Mitchell Post, they went to the Andersonville prison site on a visit. And when they were there, they noticed that that the fence, the stockade fence, was completely gone. In fact, it was fairly well known in the Atlanta area. Right after the prison closed, the locals took the fence and cut it all down and used it for firewood.
Okay.
So it was just open. The site keeper told Mr. Weston that even though the fence is gone, that they cut the people that ransacked the fencing, cut the posts off at the ground.
Okay.
But the posts were sunk into the ground a considerable distance. And that this post was still good. And so Weston took, or was given, 2 posts to be used for souvenirs. And that was in, I think it was April 1906. In November 1906, he sends this gavel to Hopkinton as a Civil War relic. November 1906, he sends this Civil War this gavel to the Hopkinton Post for their collection. Yeah. And it was presented at a meeting, a well-publicized meeting attended by a lot of celebrities, and also attended by the Boston Globe.
Okay.
This was in the evening. The next day, the Globe published this article, and this is where it gets really interesting. The Globe article says, wood from the Anderson prison stockade presented to C.C. Phillips Post 14, Department of Massachusetts, Grand Army of the Republic, by H.C. Weston, Senior Vice Commander, Department of Georgia, November 1906. This is an inscription. The Globe says this was inscribed.
Oh.
So, and I'm looking at the gavel, and I says, well, where do they inscribe it? There's no indication of an inscription on that gavel. So maybe the inscription was in another form.
Or maybe a lot of times gavels have little pieces of wood that you bang it on.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe it was
on
on
that. Yeah. Anyways, this was donated. This gavel was donated to the Historical Society in 1966, and we have records that say this was made from the wood of the Andersonville prison. And
I'll tell you, I just want to say, to be able to hold something with a connection from the Civil War and all the years and all the hands that this has gone through is really moving.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
really moving.
That's why I call this is a sacred issue.
Yes.
I mean, people, how many thousands of deaths did you and suffering and so also this still gets more interesting because the town library has a letter in their files, and it's an authentic letter. It was written in 1906. This is at the time that Weston had found the post. And the library's letter says the gavel was made from the wood of Georgia hard yellow pine. Georgia hard yellow pine. So I've got my doubts on this thing because there's no inscription, and maybe you're right. Maybe it was there's more.
Yeah.
We never got more. We never got the inscription at the Historical Society. We don't know anything about it. And I'm not saying I'm a doubter. I'm believing what I'm reading at the Historical Society. They said this is an Andersonville token.
Yeah.
But my confidence would go way up if I knew this was Georgia hard yellow pine.
Right.
I don't know that. So that is kind of the story of the gavel. Now, I do have a request of the viewers. If anyone can shed light on the inscription. I know there was an inscription. I mean, the Globe printed the words.
Yeah.
So I know there was an inscription. If anybody has info as to where the inscription is or where it's been or the form of it, I'd love to hear from you. This is it's got me hooked. So, anyways.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
Yeah.
Wow, John, those are some really fascinating stories.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
All right.
you. Yeah.
And so thanks for bringing those in and taking the time and sharing it. I can't wait till our next episode to see what else you bring next.
Well, that's what I found. I discovered that this is like elementary school show and tell. You like to see something and then be told the story about it. And I'm thinking about that's a good approach for this show.
And I think what is like so valuable, really, when you hear stories and you say that's really interesting, right? It's really fascinating. But to actually be in the presence of the item or the object or the letter or the painting or the book that was written, like to be in the presence of that is really something special. And the fact that you and everybody that you work with as caretakers for our history make that available, I just really cannot encourage people more to stop by and see what you have.
And unfortunately, something like this is wrapped in tissue paper and put into a collection box called we call it this is called an artifact.
Okay.
And it's in a box, and I don't know why I was searching around, but I came across it.
Wow.
And it just got lucky, I guess. Or something.
You meant to share it with us.
I'm sure there's many, many more artifacts that are.
Well, keep
of
looking
interest.
because they're really cool.
That's the fodder for my talks.
All right. Hey, thanks again. It's great to see you back
you
in here in
too.
the studio.
Very good. Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
And thank you very much for joining us. And please come back, see our previous episodes. You'll find them on our channel or on our YouTube channel. And stick around because there's always something new around the corner. Have a great day.
I'm John Palmer. I'm here with the Hopkinton Historical Society. We're located on 168 Hayden Row Street.
This is Kathy Young. Our family has lived in Hopkinton for about 8 years. So a couple of years ago, my kid pushed me to do the home composting. And I reluctant doing so because of the too much extra work. Of course, I got the lectures from my kid and we started doing it. And I'm really surprised that how much trash has been reduced just by simply doing the composting. 2/3 of my trash were gone. Since then, I got into learning about and advocating for the sustainability, and I joined the Sustainable Green Committee to work alongside others, contributing into all these aspects. So I was really inspired by the new generation and welcome more young people join the efforts.
At the Hopkinton Public Schools, safety is our first priority. Our students need to feel that they are safe before they can begin learning and growing. As part of our commitment to safety and security, people who need to conduct business at our schools should go to the main entrance, press the buzzer, and explain the purpose of your visit. Wait to be admitted and do not hold the door for those behind you. Other than the main entrance, all other entrances are locked for security.